Welcome to the Once Upon a Sunday Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts, Josh Kimmel, Dave Campbell, and Justin Bowerly.
Welcome to Once Upon a Sunday Fantasy Football Podcast. This is Josh, and I'm bringing you, of course, our not 20. Why am I giving the year? It's almost 2025. That's why. I'm so used to saying 2024, and my attorney's like, we have a demand. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the year. We're here to talk about your semifinals matchups, if you made it. Now, if you were here Wednesday, you would know that Mr. Co-host Justin's made it he has 9 semifinal matchups. Congratulations, Justin. Well, hopefully we're here to help you out with your 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe 9 semifinal weekends. So without further ado, let's bring in on Justin. Let's talk about the show. Justin, how are your 9 teams going? Did you have Cortland Sutton?
To have like a 1 championship roster. That's gonna really suck. But hey, we're rolling, and of course you're in one of them against me. So, and it actually involves a huge trade that we're gonna talk about. We're going to talk about the player in the huge trade that we made during the offseason and how this is going to epically backfire on me. So
possibly that was a huge, massive trade. Before we get into the big stuff, we do have a guest. He's a good friend of mine. He's been on the show multiple times before. His name is Mr. Zach Blobner, Tampa Bay legend, icon. What's going on, Zach?
What's up, guys? It's playoff season, right? So we're pumped. We're ready.
We are pumped, and we are ready. How many semifinals do you have, Zach?
So as you know, Josh, I cut way back this year. I think with the explosion of sports betting in the state of Florida, like budgetarily, I had to kind of make some hard decisions, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go the smart route, and I'm going to cut back on fantasy, knowing that I was going to be throwing dough into that grinder all season long. But I ended up in, I think, 3 total leagues, which is the least amount I've been in probably in like 20 years. One of them I'm co-commissioning with you in a dynasty league. So we're obviously in that semifinal. That's one where I give you most of the credit since you built that team. And I just kind of came in as like an assistant GM. And then in my main league, I'm in the wrong kind of semifinal. I'm in the semifinal to stay out of the bottom, and I won that league last year. So a real riches to rags story inverted there. And then in my last remaining league, I've been the best team all year. It's like a Goliath type of roster, and I'm just hoping to hold on in the postseason.
Yeah, you did dip your toe into dynasty this year. I was ready to quit that league because, like you just said, you dropped leagues. Well, me and Justin are in 20 plus leagues, and I want to drop 20 plus leagues. And every time I do, the managers or commissioners like, Josh, don't go. We need you. Or, I like the people in the league, so I don't want to leave it. You were supposed to take over full, and I was going to be your advisor. Well, it turned out I'm taking over full still, and you are the advisor. Your main input of the season, which thank you, draft Brian Thomas Jr. at no cost. Like that's what you said. That's what we got to do. And I'm like, I'm on par with you. That's what we believe in. We left Josh Palmer in our league, lineup last night. And we left David Montgomery in our lineup last night. So.
Lovely. Lovely.
Good stuff, Lovely. Man. It's good stuff.
Well, like we were very much on the same page. We drafted together. The first few weeks, I feel like we were together. And then there was like a moment early on in the season where like I made a move and you reversed it. And you're like, hey, I reversed this move. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to let you do the lineup then. And I'll look, I'll have input. If I think of anything, I'll holler at you. But like you... And I'm sure it's because again, it's your baby. And I know that you're just like so into it. I was okay with that. I was like, I'll step back because I was under the impression you wanted me to take more of a hands-on approach. Yeah, you did for the first 3 weeks. And then you're like, this is mine. I got it. And I was like, I'm cool with that. Hey, they make rings for everybody on the team, folks. It's all good.
It's such a good, like, honestly, like nobody would leave that league. Like when I left the league or when I tried to leave, like, Josh, I'm like, guys, I'm stacked. Like you'll find somebody like within seconds. Because I'm stacked. Like we're stacked. Obviously we blew everyone out all season long. We're gonna lose this week. Like we're gonna lose. It's fine. It is what it is. But moving forward to the actual show and roster baiting.
Question actually before we move on to the show, Zach. We're talking about rankings today, and I know you've been in a lot of leagues with Josh. Can you give me like a rating of how he is as a I don't know, a commissioner, as a another fantasy manager in your league. Can you rate that?
Oh man. So
Mostly on his integrity.
okay, well,
Specifically his integrity.
I'll give you two rankings. We'll give you the first ranking, which is the nice one in terms of entertainment, because you want drama in your leagues, you want personalities, you want things and people that are going to shake up the season week to week. Josh certainly does that, and so from an entertainment and like a personality standpoint, I give him a 9.5 out of 10. He's a great person to have in your league from that point of view. From an integrity standpoint, I mentioned, and I told you guys this pre-show, like I love Josh. And if I didn't feel so strongly about him as a friend and essentially a family member in that regard, I would have been in a lot less leagues with him in a lot less capacity over our friendship and lifetime together. There's been a lot of moments in leagues where I've severely questioned his approach. Now, what I will say is he's never malicious about it. Like in his mind, he's always created examples of like why whatever he's doing is okay. But I think the public, if they were to review those situations, Justin, would be very much like, screw this guy. What a jerk.
So you're saying I'm the Thanos of fantasy. I have a reason. It's a good reason. You just don't like the reasons.
And you usually do die at the end of the movie before the championship. So that's true. Yes, you're very Thanos-esque in that way.
I completely get that assessment, actually. I fully back that assessment.
Yep. Hey, listen, when someone asks me for advice in a league,
Oh, my God.
I'm going to give it. That's my job. That's what I do. I give advice.
Especially when it benefits you and doesn't benefit another player like me that's really in a good place in said league. Hypothetically, of course.
Hypothetically, yeah. You do what you got to do to win. If you're not first, you're last. I just try to win leagues, cutthroat, no matter what. I don't care who dies afterwards. I just want to win the league. Sorry.
Yeah.
So there we go.
You play to win the game.
I wish I had that soundbite because I'd play it. I would, without, but you know what?
Need to get that soundbite.
It is. But let's move on to our rankings. We have some. Actually, you know what? Unprofessional. We haven't had a guest in a while. Zach, where can we find you? Are you on Blue Sky yet?
Blue Sky? I am actually. I'm on Blue Sky. I haven't really used it much. You know, it's interesting. I kind of had the same pop to me as Threads, where like I jumped in, I was interested. I don't really still understand like how people transition to the newer apps and are able to kind of take their following so seamlessly. Like I haven't had that same kind of, I guess, luck or fortune, or maybe I'm just not really putting enough, if any, effort into it happening. But I'm pretty much across the board at Zach on the mic, ZAC on the mic. Yeah, it's holiday season, so I'm not posting as much right now for various reasons. But yeah, at Zach on the mic across the board. You can find me pretty much anywhere on social, including Blue Sky.
Yes. So make sure you follow Zach. Really fun. Like a really fun follow. I'm not just saying that because you're my friend. Like you actually post legit stuff. There's no drama, just always sports, always good stuff. So let's talk about our rankings, Justin. I know we have a list of players we're going to go through today. If you're just joining in, I know we just started the show 8 minutes ago. This is Once Upon a Sunday Fantasy Football Podcast. Guest Zach Blobner, Tampa Bay Titan, right? A legend. And we have Justin Barley here, of course. Make sure you follow us, OUSFF Pod everywhere. Go to our website, OUSFFpod.com. That's where our rankings are. You can follow along with the show, see where our rankings are. Of course, guys, we got big things going on. Join our Discord. We have a Discord going. Do we have that link in the chat, Justin, or in the description? Did you slack off on that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on the description. Discord Super League. Guess who was in the semifinals of Super League this year? Zach, if you didn't know where, Super League is this giant league that Justin created, promotes charity. What's the charity again?
It is the Extra Life. It's for the Riley Children's, or not the Riley, Children's Miracle Network.
Yes. So I'm in the semifinals. So congrats to me for being awesome again. I'm going to take that title home, baby. I am. Next year we want to go bigger. Zach, I want you to be a part of it if you can. It's best ball. You don't do anything. You literally just draft. You set it. You're done and done.
You can pick up waivers and stuff like that.
Okay, all right. I didn't, and I'm still elite, so we're fine. It is what it is. Look at my fab. I haven't spent one dime. It is what it is. I'm just a great drafter. Baker Mayfield took me to the top, baby. Just redo your transition cut. That's also a running gag on
What
the show. He loves
like you can't take free agent budget with you, you know, like on the way out. It doesn't transfer over year to year, man.
Oh, I know it doesn't. We had a big argument about that on the not on the show, but in one of his leagues he manages. I actually dropped like $200 on Sincere McCormick, and someone was like, "What an idiot!" I'm like, I got 400 fab, bro. Like it's week 15. Like I'm just not going to use it any other way. So all right, let's go to our rankings. Lamar Jackson. I have him ranked pretty high. You have him ranked pretty high. Zach, I'm pretty sure, has him ranked pretty high. He's going against his Pittsburgh Steelers this week. This is the quarterback. This is the trade you were talking about. So Justin, set it up on a T for Zach. Set it up for a T for the listeners. What went down in the preseason between Lamar Jackson and another quarterback?
So we had a dynasty ranking show for the quarterback position, and we talked about Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and we had one of us had Lamar at 1, the other had Jalen Hurts at 1, and that's pretty good. They've both been very exceptional. One has been QB1 all season, the other I think is QB3 all season. So the two of us, we had the other. So the one that ranked Lamar Jackson at number 1 had Jalen Hurts. The one that ranked Jalen Hurts number 1 had Lamar Jackson. So naturally, we made a trade. We swapped the two. I think one of us got the person that got Jalen Hurts got a late first-round pick because, the other team is stacked. And the other guy got who he thought was going to be an early second-round pick because the guy
because I was bad.
Jackson sucked. Turns out they're both going to be late-round picks because they're both in the semifinals this week. I got Lamar Jackson. Josh got Jalen Hurts. And I have him ranked the lowest I've had him all season. I have him at QB9 this week because he goes up against Pittsburgh. He is 0-4 against Pittsburgh in his career. Or he's 1-3. Sorry, he's 1-3 against Pittsburgh in his career. And historically, he just has not been that great. Since his, I think, second season against Pittsburgh. He's hardly scoring 15 points. Lamar Jackson, while he is great, does not do well against Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin has his number, and that's why I have him ranked so low this week.
No,
still QB1, still starting quarterback. Just saying that, but I haven't.
Yeah, listen, guys. Let's be honest here. His lowest game, his worst game of the season was Week 11 against Pittsburgh, 15.9 points. That's his season low. I could definitely see that happening. I have Lamar ranked 3rd this week. I'm okay with that. I do think that in the end of the day, I don't like this whole situation where it's like, oh, Marshawn Lattimore shuts down Mike Evans, so blah, 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 blah. Dude, he's a super stud too. You got to remember that. Lamar's a super stud too. Like, he can make things happen. He can create things. We saw the Buccaneers just put up 40 points against the Chargers. Like, things can happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll with the MVP, the reigning MVP, the defending MVP, and the future MVP of this year. That's why I'm rolling with Lamar Jackson at my number 3 spot this year because, look, they need to lock up this spot. They need to lock up this division. They need to put Pittsburgh to sleep. Pittsburgh is sneaky good this year. Not sneaky. They're good this year. It's crazy. But I just think Lamar's going to go nuts and do his thing. And, you have all the evidence. You do. And this is more of a gut check for me, and I'm okay. I'm usually not the gut check guy. I'm usually about numbers, stats.
It's usually the other way around, yeah.
It is, but I'm just going gut check. He's the best player in the world. Zach, do you think that Lamar can actually produce against Pittsburgh, or do you think that your guys are going to shut him down?
Definitely the latter. I mean, TJ Watt just got greenlit, right? He's going to be playing. And then in terms of this game specifically, you actually heard during the broadcast where the Steelers lost to the Eagles, it referenced multiple times that Mike Tomlin and this squad were very much aware that regardless of the outcome of that game, and that was before kickoff even happened, that this was the one that was going to matter because this is the divisional game. This is the one that's going to sway things one way or the other. So not to say that Philly wouldn't have beat the Steelers either way, because they're damn good too, speaking of Jalen Hurts, but that was a situation where I almost wonder if Steelers were focused on this matchup, even during that game with Tomlin. So, look, again, high floor. He's still a stud. You're still going to play him. Like, at this time of year, you got to trust that guy. He got you there. But in terms of expecting him to blow out and have the type of game that you're like, okay, I'm going to dominate my fantasy matchup in the postseason, I would be more surprised if that happened than if he, hit that 15-point ceiling for his game against the Steelers.
So I'm going to give you a list, Zach and Justin.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you guys both answer. So Justin has him ranked number 9, Lamar Jackson I'm speaking of. I'm going to give you the players he has above him. Tell me where you would put Lamar Jackson, or not you, because Justin, actually, you already have him ranked 9. So Zach, he has Cooper Rush at 8. Would you?
And Josh knows I hate Cooper Rush. Yeah,
so you would go
yeah.
Lamar. Okay.
I'd rather play Crash Bandicoot than Cooper Rush. We're just throwing out like cartoon names.
Jaden Daniels versus Philly. He has him at 7.
Yeah, I don't like Jaden Daniels that much this week against them. I mean, I was looking into that a little bit. Again, still a guy that you're starting just for the sake of this chat. But yeah, I'd probably have Lamar ahead of him.
Ooh, this is a good one. Sam Darnold at Seattle.
Man, I think I actually had a buddy ask me a similar one. Yeah, I'm very much on the Sam Darnold train. Big fan of what he's doing. Outside of like a hiccup or two in this fantasy year, he's been awesome. I would probably start Darnold there in between those two.
You think Darnold starts for Minnesota next year or a different team?
I think he starts for Minnesota. I think if JJ wasn't hurt all season long, it's a different chat maybe. But with McCarthy just not being healthy, like I would be surprised if they didn't find a way to keep him around. And I think we saw this with Baker and Tampa. Like there's an appreciation for teams that believe in you when you look dead in career and are able to like put you in a place where you can be successful. A lot of times guys do pay that team back, at least in some capacity, even if it's another 1-year deal with like a 2nd-year option.
Yeah. Justin, what about you, man? We never talked about this. I know it's going to be an entire offseason, but I think Sam Darnold starts for the Vikings next year.
I think Sam Darnold is the best option for the Vikings next season. I don't have a lot of confidence in J.J. McCarthy even coming out of college, let alone now. But, I mean, we're talking about a team that let the quarterback that got into the NFC Championship walk. So, and he hasn't done anything since. And I'm not saying Case Keenum was like the truth or anything, but we're talking about a team that consistently lets that quarterback go, so that they can pursue other options. So I would assume they're going to be on with J.J. McCarthy next year.
I mean, you spend a high draft pick, you have to. It's not like a Kyle Trask situation with Baker where Kyle Trask was a third. What pick was Kyle Trask? What round?
This is the last pick of the 2nd round.
Yeah,
so
2nd round pick.
Basically a 3rd rounder, but everybody's like, oh, he's a 2nd rounder. The last pick of that round.
Well, I mean, so basically a 3rd rounder, kind of like Malik Willis, where no one's going to drop a quarterback just because of him. But J.J. McCarthy was a 1st round pick, and he actually looked good in preseason.
Yeah.
If Dirtbag Dave was here, he'd be cussing you out, Justin.
I mean, look, and to Justin's point, like I think if JJ was healthy and hadn't gotten injured the way that he did, even with Darnold balling out the way he is, I think I could subscribe to that a little bit more. Obviously, he's still able to soak up and watch and do things. I do wonder, where he's at from an injury standpoint. And they know they have, even if they bring Darnold back, then they have 2 options. You're seeing, ironically, in Atlanta right now how important that is.
Oh, yeah. Big time. All right, let's get back on this topic real quick and we'll round it because I think you're going to find a stopping point here. Not here, but the next guy. Kyler Murray at 5.
Sam Darnold.
He said he'd start. Oh, it was Darnold. Okay, all right.
Yeah, so
all right.
Only moving up 2 spots. It's fine.
That's fine. That's fine with me. I don't hate that too much. Now, do you want to talk about Jalen Hurts? So we have some information on Jalen Hurts because
I didn't send you a text for Jalen Hurts.
Well, this is the you set this up for a matchup.
Yeah, sure.
This preseason trade that's going to backfire in your face. And now we're fighting it out. So I'm gonna ask you, Zach, and I'm gonna ask because he's biased. Who's got a better matchup this week? Jalen Hurts at Washington, Lamar Jackson versus Pittsburgh. Who would you feel comfortable with in the semifinals this week?
Jalen Hurts at Washington easily. Like I don't even think that's a conversation. But again, it's also not a scenario that anybody's going to be in where they have to start one or the other, right? Like I think Jaden Daniels is such an interesting case because he's a rookie. Sam Darnold because nobody expected him to be any good. Like very feasible that those guys could be on rosters in 1 QB leagues, obviously, where like the other guy that you have maybe is Lamar or is Jalen because maybe you drafted that quarterback. Hopefully you traded one of them at some point, at least late in the year to get something back. But, I know how some people like to sit on those quarterbacks so that they have options. But yeah, I think Jalen going up, I mean, the way the Eagles are playing, the way they're healthy on offense, his ability to rush in touchdowns against Washington, like I would lean heavier into that than Lamar. It matchup specific for sure.
For sure. All right, Justin, let's go to the next quarterback on this list. Let's bring some spiciness into it. Justin, Baker Mayfield. There we go. I was gonna lead into this question. So I'm in a guillotine league, which if you don't know what that is, a team gets cut every single week. There's 3 teams left. I'm one of the 3. My options are Lamar Jackson and this guy, Baker Mayfield. I have Lamar ranked 2nd, and I have Baker ranked 6th. But in my mind, in my gut, I guess you would say, I'm thinking, man, I gotta play Baker. Like I have to play Baker with my season on the line. But it's going to be so difficult to bench the MVP for this guy, the guy that made us famous, the guy who got us so much hate. Zach, you weren't here for this. Our number one video of all time is me trashing Baker Mayfield, saying he's one of the worst quarterbacks of all time.
Not just once,
Twice,
times.
three times.
Like 3 times.
I'm LeBron, baby. One time, 2
Wow.
times.
Yikes.
But to be fair, it was last year when he was kind of average, and he was only the quarterback 8 because every quarterback in the world got hurt last year. And I did say, guys, not everyone's going to get hurt again. Well, it didn't need to happen because he's a super stud. And I've turned around. I actually am a big fan of Baker Mayfield, like one of the biggest fans. I love Baker Mayfield. So that being said, against Dallas, would you feel comfortable? We didn't go over this guy. Would you feel comfortable starting him over a Lamar, a Jalen Hurts, a Joe Burrow?
Well, the first thing I want to say is in that co-commish dynasty league we referenced at the top of the show, we do have Baker Mayfield, and Josh heavily was trying to move him in the rookie draft back in May, but we really didn't get any value offers. So I don't think Josh is the only one that didn't see a ton of value or was skeptical about him repeating at least what he did last year. And then you factor in Chris Godwin going down. I mean, you just got to give him credit, like tip of the cap, the way he's playing. This offense is rolling. I think the part, and I know I talked to you about this, Josh, because Bucky Irving specific, like with Liam Cohen coming to town as the new OC, like that's why Baker is not only performing, but performing better. And I think a lot of us that are closer to the team, like had an inkling that was going to kind of take place even before week 1, just from going Canales to Liam Cohen. The one thing I would say specific to him or Lamar this weekend, and this is how I always make these decisions, because they both feel like good calls. Which one would you regret not starting more, right? Like if everything went to hell, let's say you start Baker, he doesn't play as well, Lamar balls out, and vice versa. Which one would you be sicker about? Whatever your answer is, that's the route I would go, because ultimately, and you already mentioned going with your gut. That's always been my golden rule whenever I talk fantasy with folks, because it isn't an exact science. And I know at least Josh, specifically you, I don't know if you're as analytical, Justin, but Josh is so analytical that sometimes I feel like it handcuffs him in a way. And I think that's why he gets beat up in the playoffs so often, because he's just like, this is what I should do. And that's fine to an extent, but in this type of game, it is gambling. It's educated gambling, but it's gambling. So you never really know. So if you're in a scenario like this, that's a good one. Go with the guy that you would regret not starting more again if everything went to hell. Bluntly put, I don't know how you can get away from Baker right now, the way he is slinging it. And then you take into the consideration he's going up against Dallas, who's been a shell of itself. I think they're going to want to ball out against the Cowboys on the road, on prime time. And again, I just think obviously it's tough to bench Lamar, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't crack 20 points this weekend.
Yeah. Justin, you have Baker ranked 2nd. That's why he's on this. I have Baker ranked 6th, so I'm not too far off. Why do you have Baker ranked so high?
I mean, all the things that was just mentioned. Baker is going up against the defense that allows the 4th most points in the league, 20.6. In comparison to Lamar, when we're talking Baker or Lamar, I mean, Lamar, we talked about Pittsburgh. They allowed the 29th most points to the quarterback position, 14.7, which just feeds right into what Lamar scores against Pittsburgh. But we're not talking about Lamar anymore. Yeah, Baker, I mean, they're playing for a playoff spot too. So it's not like they can just score a couple and then okay, let's sit back and just rest and try to get into the playoff. No, they have to fight for playoff positioning right now. So they're going to be pushing more and more to get that divisional win, which just means more down the field. Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan. I was like, oh God, who's out there outside of Mike Evans? But Jalen McMillan's finally stepping in. Of course, you got Bucky Irving still doing pretty well as well. So I expect a big game from Baker. They're going to have to basically put the Cowboys away out of that wild card spot even. So this should be a big game for Tampa this week.
Another thing too, I want to add, since it's a good points there, with Mike Evans right now trying to get to 1,000 yards like he's done every season. Like Baker said just the other day, I want it more than Mike does. So he's going to be feeding 13. He's going to be pushing the ball downfield. Not that he wouldn't anyways, because it's freaking Mike Evans. But that's just another thing to that point. And Cade Otton, the starting tight end, he's a little banged up. He was at practice today, so that's another thing that bodes well.
251 yards and 3 games left. So
It's definitely possible. There was a point when he came back, people were like, he needs to average 100 and something
100
yards.
Yeah.
That was me. I was like, he's not.
Yeah, and people were like, well, his career average is 83. They're like, his career average is 83 yards a game or whatever it was. I'm
Okay,
like,
but he was also hurt. That was into a bye week after they had lost several games. When that was being said, the Bucs weren't on their current winning streak. They were coming, there's a lot more going.
But if you look at the matchups, like, oh, Panthers, we got the Vegas Raiders. Like, we had a lot of juicy matchups going on. Then that Chargers game was like, whoa, okay, he's going to need $1.25 against Carolina and Vegas to make up for what he's not going to do against the Chargers. Then they put up like 5 billion points on the Chargers. So
best game of the season for Mike Evans.
I guess like that just go same logic as super studs do super stud things. So Mike Evans does Mike Evans things.
3.5 games to injury, and he's wide receiver 18 right now.
It's crazy.
It's
crazy.
Nuts.
It's Hall of Fame stuff.
Oh, he's a. I've been saying that for years. He's already got his jacket. They're already sizing him up for his jacket. He's a Super Bowl champion as well. Like, that's the one thing they always say. Like, oh, did he win a Super Bowl? Well, yes, he did actually, and he performed. So Big Mike is definitely on my list. Where's Chris Godwin? I would be curious because I remember looking at rankings about 3 weeks ago. Chris Godwin was still in the top 30 at least.
Yeah,
because he was so good at the beginning of the year.
Everybody's forgetting how explosive he was at the beginning of the season. He is wide receiver 41. Played 7 games.
Oh, right behind Jalen Waddle.
He's like borderline like flex material still.
Right? How many points behind Jalen Waddle? Oh,
sure. Is he behind?
Just 3 points behind Waddle.
Wide receiver 40. So
yeah.
Oh my god.
He's so bad.
Jalen Waddle has 140.6. Godwin has 137.8.
That's insane.
Waddle is the most overrated piece of trash.
Whoa.
I'm so sick of this guy.
Why do you hate Penguins so much?
Don't get me started. I do not like the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I do not like Sidney Crosby, and I do not like Jalen Waddle. So how about that? No, I just, last week we had a start sit. Every Wednesday we do a showdown, which we take 2 players, obviously, and go, I pick this guy, I pick this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was Jalen Waddle versus Khalil Shakur. And I'm like, guys, I understand Waddle's going to get hurt. I understand Waddle's going to fall on the ground. I understand Waddle's going to roll over 5 times. I understand he's going to go to the blue tent at least 3 times. I understand that. He'll always come back and score 17 points or whatever, or he'll give you a good week. First catch, or not even catch, first target, injured, blue tent, 0 points. I'm so sick of this guy. Get him off my team. Get him off my team. But anyway.
You just got a new contract, by the way, so maybe chill out on that get a new team type of chatter.
It doesn't matter. Kirk Cousins just got a new contract.
It's a little different.
How is it different? Kirk Cousins probably owed way more.
No, I was looking at some of the ways. That's a separate chat. That's a separate pod. But they drafted Penix, so they're ready to roll in from a team standpoint. And they were talking about some ways that they get creative to get out of that deal. It's a little different at the quarterback position more than the contractual situation.
No, I definitely understand. I get that. I mean, but we've seen
who's taking Waddle on that contract right now.
Vegas. They do stupid things all the time. They like speed. I don't know. Call up Vegas. Hey, bro, you guys want this? I mean, he's this. Like, you know what? I would be so fine. And this is a totally different topic. Send him to Buffalo. Give him a landmine. Give him a disaster because I hate Buffalo so much. And I would love for Josh Allen to get another bust like an Amari Cooper type where he does nothing all season long. Like, I would love that. But Josh Allen would
somebody that sees like 90-degree weather year round through the playoffs to Buffalo.
Yeah, well, what happened last time the Dolphins played the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs? You got Mike McDaniels hitting the vape. They're going 4th and 1, getting delay a game, and then they call a 4th and 6 draw. A draw play on 4th and 6. Fire McDaniels. Fire everyone on that team. You asked me yesterday in text, how do I deal with the Dolphins? Like, I just don't anymore. And we are, by the way, on the Fins Talk Sports Network. So keep that in mind when I'm saying these things. The creator, the boss of this network, when we created my wrestling show last night, because you can create the shows. And I saw the list. Like, oh, the network's putting out these shows. 2 shows were scheduled, and both shows were titled Fire McDaniels. One was The Coach Scott's to Go. I'm like, yeah, the coach Scott's to go. He's an awful coach. But this is fantasy. We're talking fantasy right now. Can we move on to the running backs, Justin? Because I don't want to.
I was waiting for it.
Najee Harris, another Pittsburgh player. We're going to talk Pittsburgh some more. Najee's been such a bell cow this year. but also such a disappointment because he's just, man, when he came out his rookie season, people were telling me, and I was telling people, he's a top 5 running back for the rest of his career. We thought he was going to be the super stud that's going to catch 80 balls. Well, his target share went down. His catches went down. His touchdowns were just never there. But this year is kind of a resurgence. Zach, as a Pittsburgh guy, you follow this team. Are you happy with Najee's performance this year? Are we still screaming for Jalen Warren? And is he on any of your fantasy teams?
No, Najee is not the type of player I would draft. Yeah, I made that mistake last year, and as soon as I did it, I was like, "This is so dumb." I know this isn't going to work out. It didn't. Steelers specific. Like, I still feel the same way about Jalen Warren as I did the last 2 or 3 years. Right? Like, outside of injury conversations, like that's the guy who should be getting the most work, in my opinion. At least in more of a split. And it's nothing against Najee. Like, you go back to when he was drafted. I just remember being close to the television when that happened and thinking they are going to run this guy into the ground because their offense had nothing else at that point. And it kind of felt that way these last few years. This year, he's obviously looked like somewhat of a refreshed back. Every game, I feel like he hurdles somebody. He still runs hard. There's a lot to like about the way Najee's going. I just don't know how you can put him in any chat where you feel like he's trustworthy, especially this time of year, right? So I worry about him both in real life with Warren and just that offense in general. Fantasy wise, this time of year, if he's your best option, that would worry me. Yeah, even if he's RB2 on your team.
But he gets so many carries. Just perspective, I have him ranked 31st, I believe, and Justin has him ranked. I can't even find him on your list. Is he that high on your list?
He's like 23 or something like that.
Okay, so 23.
Yeah.
So we have him ranked as a running back 3. You have him a low end running back 2, which is what he is. But I'm just afraid because 2 weeks in a row he's had less than 40% snap share. That's pretty alarming to me. That's like who is getting the carries there. And do we trust him against Baltimore, or a team where you would assume you're going to need to throw the ball because it's going to be a high-scoring game? You assume. Last time they played Baltimore, he scored 13.3 points. He had 5 targets. That was what we want. That's what we thought we were going to get with Najee when he was drafted. Remember, he came out his rookie season catching 60-plus balls. I think it was somewhere in that Kamara range where we thought he was going to be one of these kind of players, and it's drastically fallen off. Not sure if it's quarterback play. Not sure if it's coaching. Not sure what it is, actually. But I'm not really confident in a guy that's going into Baltimore, a huge matchup, where he's only going to get 35% of the snaps. You're not getting much out of that. He's not getting the goal line work. I mean, he had 1 red zone carry last week. He only had 6 carries last week. He only had 1 target last week. Did he get hurt last week? Did I miss this?
He had a big fumble, so that probably had something to do with it.
That had something to do with it. The Steelers only had the ball for 20 minutes and 8 seconds compared to 39 minutes and 52 seconds. They actually only got a total of 17 rushes off. Najee led the backfield with 6 carries, 14 yards. Russell Wilson had 4 carries, 13 yards. Jalen Warren had 4. Patterson had 2. Fields had 1 for 8 yards. So their most effective runner was Justin Fields, but he's already listed out this week. So that
RB1 baby
did not move. So I agreed with you. That offense got 163 total yards.
Without Pickens, it's just been atrocious.
Right. And Pickens is out again.
This week, so that's not great. Even you would hope Calvin Austin, Pat Freiermuth, the other guy that should be doing well right now, not doing great. Mike Williams is on that team, not doing anything. It's just that offense isn't moving without Pickens, which is crazy. But against the Ravens, again, Tomlin has that card apparently, and I'm expecting Najee to have a decent game. I'm not saying top 10 game. Obviously, I got him ranked at 23, but he's somebody I would still be starting against the Ravens this week.
He's only been a running back 1 twice this season. Week 13 against Cincinnati and week 6 against the Vegas Raiders. 2 awful defenses against the rush, so that is much expected. We expected him to get 20, 15 carries a game. If you're in a point per carry league, he's an excellent play. Like, he's a very excellent play. I'm in a point per carry league, and I do start him every week because he's getting me 16 carries, like literally 16 carries. It's his floor, minus last week where he only got 6. So if you're in a point per carry league and you want that volume and you want that safety, maybe you only need 10 points out of your running back too. He's definitely a go-to, but I ranked him outside my top 24 for a reason, because I'm not touching him in this game. Without Pickens, like Blobner brought up, Zach made a great point. Without Pickens, this offense doesn't move because they're not afraid of anyone. They don't have any weapons. Pat Fryermuth shouldn't be your top weapon. I mean, this is the bottom line. Silent Night in the chat is making fun of Justin. Thank you so much for that. Because, we like to show up for our show. We're callers over here. We're professional Silent. Thank you so much for viewing. If this is your first time here, I think it is, make sure you hit that sub button. We're here every single Wednesday, Tuesday, I said that out of order, and Friday at noon. We have special guest Zach Blobner on the show. We're talking our fantasy rankings. You can follow us at ousffpod.com. And, of course, our YouTube page, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky, which we're more active on Blue Sky these days. To hit all the keynotes, Justin?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's move on to one more running back. You could pick anyone you want. Then we got to go into the wide receivers.
Oh, man.
Make
I
it
want
quick.
to pick the spicy one, or do I just play it safe?
Spicy. Oh, that's easy. That's the easiest one of all time. Or did you choose safe?
Yeah.
You chose safe.
I chose safe.
I was watching football with one of my buddies that Zach knows very well, actually. And he made a proclamation. And this has nothing to do with rankings. And I just want to get this out here. He slammed down his beer on his table as we were watching the games and said, "It's done. Saquon's better than Zeke ever was." And he walked away. Do you guys agree with this?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about that.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. Okay.
I feel
All right.
strongly against that.
I'm not going to have this argument right now. But you guys are both wrong. It's fine.
Yeah,
Stop.
sure. Zeke showed up for his first 6 seasons. Had top 12 seasons minus 1. Barkley's just
I don't know. Do we talk about Calvin Ridley in a way where he only had about 7 elite years, but he went away? No,
you Ridley have an elite year.
Not really. Did I say Ridley? Calvin?
Calvin
Are you too young for him?
He had one.
Wait, no.
Good year.
Calvin Johnson. Oh my goodness!
Bro,
I had a brain lapse.
You're not helping your argument bringing up Calvin Ridley, but
I had a huge brain lapse there. But Calvin Johnson. You don't have to be elite for 10 years to be an elite player.
Do you think Zeke was as good as a running back as Calvin Johnson was as a receiver?
I think Zeke was one of the most elite running backs we've ever seen with my own eyes.
Until this year, who did Saquon have on his team that would have
Wow.
Okay, well, we can use that same argument with Adrian Peterson. He didn't have nobody on the Vikings. There was many years where that team won about 5 to 6 games.
And that's exactly, he was that good.
He gets credit for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Saquon couldn't do anything in New York. How good could you possibly be? We're not going to argue about. We're not going to argue about this. We're not going to argue.
Games.
I'm on an island, and I'm going to stick on my island.
RB13.
I'm going to eat cereal with my boy Zeke all day long. You guys can do whatever you want with Saquon. That's fine. He finally has a good season, and everyone celebrates. I'm on Saquon. As in,
the Hall of Fame, the other won't. So, and I'll give you a hint which one will.
I have Saquon Barkley ranked number 1 this week against the Washington Commanders. You have Saquon Barkley ranked 4th this week against the Washington Commanders. I love Saquon. This is not against Saquon at all. My whole thing was I thought you guys would align with me that Zeke was a better running back. It's fine. It's cool. I can't find. I'm still searching for that one. It's kind of like finding my soulmate. Once I find him, we'll get married and we'll buy Zeke jerseys and be happy.
I think it is. I think it is Ezekiel Elliott. I think that's the guy that you got to talk to. He's the only one. Everybody else is going to be like me and Justin. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, that's unfortunate. But Saquon Barkley going against the Washington Commanders. This is an easy slam dunk for me. Why do you have him at 4? Why are you so low on him?
He screwed me last week. No,
I mean
that does matter. That does count though. That does count.
I don't, man. He did not finish as great as I had hoped he would last week. He's actually starting to taper off since week 13 against Baltimore. 14 points against Carolina, 9 points against Pittsburgh, and this is somebody that needs more rushing yards, and that offense is going towards AJ Brown instead of Saquon Barkley more now. So I don't know what that's about, but it's not so much of that. Why is Saquon 4? It's why I have the 3 guys ahead of him. And it's all opportunity right now. Jahmyr Gibbs, I have as RB1 because who is running the ball outside of
Mhm.
Jahmyr Gibbs now? Not David Montgomery. He doesn't have a vulturing all of his touchdowns in the red zone now. James Conner's been on a different world. I have him as RB2. Josh Jacobs as RB3. That's again. I think I said it the other day. Maybe I said this on Reddit during the AMA yesterday. That who in Green Bay is there to score fantasy points outside of Josh Jacobs?
Jaden Reed whenever they finally
Consistently.
target him. I know. No, I get it.
Exactly. So it's all about the opportunity. And Josh Jacobs goes against New Orleans, James Conner against Carolina, Jahmyr Gibbs against Chicago. I'll take all 3 of those against Saquon Barkley with a tougher defense than the 3 of those.
No, I'm not hating on that. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I think the best thing you could do to argue for Saquon versus those 3 guys is such an unknown. And that's whether or not like AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts are good now. Like they had their own handshake last week, like they're buddy. Okay, so now that it's publicly quote unquote patched up, does this team go back to what it was doing well earlier in the year? Now they did win that way last week against Pittsburgh, and obviously AJ Brown's a star, so like you don't go away from him, and that doesn't include the other good players on this team. I just think that you're kind of grasping at possibilities for why the Eagles will get back to running with Saquon more versus more established logic in those other 3 backs, to be honest.
No, so I thought it because when I saw your lineups and I saw your rankings, Justin, and I was like, God, Jahmyr Gibbs is so easy, slam dunk #1. But once you think Dan Campbell is going to do something, he does total opposite. Like we all thought the Jahmyr Gibbs when they drafted him, oh yeah, he's going to be the bell cow. Well, David Montgomery, and I've been saying this for 2 years now, he's the starting running back. Gibbs is the one vulturing touchdowns from him when he scores. Montgomery is the lead back there. He always has been. Now we're going to see Gibbs, but are they going to bring someone else in? Is it going to be a situation where we see some random guy that no one picked up, no one started, he's getting touchdowns now, or he's getting more work than we thought because Dan Campbell, that's the way he runs his offense. Let's not pretend that Jared Goff has superstars throwing. He has Amon Ra and a bunch of outsiders, a bunch of outcasts. It's kind of like the Buccaneers situation. You have one stud and a bunch of support players. I do think they heavily lean on the running in Chicago. They're going to have to. But like Jahmyr Gibbs, you do want to give him the entire workload heading into the playoffs? I don't think you do. I truly don't think you do. But there's a situation where he does catch 6 balls. He does get 200 total yards. He does score a touchdown. Like that's a situation. I understand that. But I've seen Saquon Barkley do that 10,000 times. He's going to do, and I have a feeling he's going to do it again. Again, another gut check. James Conner. This guy won't die. This guy won't go away. Last week, he was giving breakaway. I've never seen that man run so fast last week. The biggest breakaway run of his career. And he's going against Carolina. What a plus matchup. Like, he might be the #1 running back this week. He has a possibility of doing it. Can't hate that.
Might be a league winner this year.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
Legitimately. So I can't hate your rankings and I can't hate mine. Like, it's all picking nits at this point. We're all starting these players. It's just where and when. One guy I have a little bit higher than you is Bijan Robinson. I don't know if you made a graphic on him or not. Playing the New York Giants. Michael Penix. Do you really think they're going to lean on him to throw the ball 40 times, 30 times a game? Or do you think they'll even have to? Because Bijan's going to take over the load. That might be a league winner as well over there. Just point that out there.
I don't think they're going to kid glove Penix. I think that this is a team, if they're making this move where they're at currently with everything in context from Cousins to the divisional race to the point in the season, like, and Michael Penix, what he does well is slings it. Like I don't know if he's going to get picked off 5 times or if it's going to work out in their favor. They're going to throw the ball with him as much as they did, if not more than when Kirk was on board.
All right. Yep. All right. Let's transition to wide receivers. We're going to pick out one, Justin. Just pick out one. Got me. You got my heartstrings, girl. Man, this is my guy right here. Cool. So we got JSN, Seattle Seahawks. What a super stud. Has taken over Tyler Lockett's role. Has taken over DK Metcalf's role. He is the alpha #1 receiver there now. And where do I have this guy ranked, we ask? I have 9th. I have him lower than you. What's going on? Have you stealing my man behind my back?
I mean, so the graphic below us says wide receiver 16 points per game this year. He is wide receiver 6 total. So if you're confused by that, That's why. This is points per game, so this includes like T. Higgins above him at wide receiver 10. But you have to be consistent when you do these rankings. Jackson Smith-Njigba, again, wide receiver 6 on the season for the entire year, and he has a huge plus matchup. Read it yesterday, did that AMA. Fun, really busy, by the way. That was very chaotic for me. First time ever using Reddit. But he has a huge plus matchup against Minnesota this week. The number 1 team in points per game against the wide receiver. They allowed the most with 33.4, and you think DK is going to get all that? No, Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be a huge part of that. Yes, it's supposed to be like a 99% chance of rain this weekend. I don't care. They're used to the rain. It's Seattle. They all know how to play in the rain. They practice with wet balls all the time. Do not see that being a factor. You have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison on the other side. They're going to have to air it out. Geno Smith is going to have to air it out too, and I fully expect Jackson Smith-Njigba to be a huge part of this offense. He's had really good games the last 3 weeks. 50 points over the last 3 weeks. That's pretty solid. He's definitely in the starting lineup. He had 12 targets last week. I'd expect at least 10 targets this week.
Yeah, Zach, let me ask you this. I'm not saying you're casual, but do you think the casual listener, player even realizes JSN is in the top 10, let alone the top 6?
No, I think he was sexy when he came out in terms of his rookie year, and then didn't obviously do much entirety with that season. So I think a lot of folks probably forgot about him after that. And that happens every year, right? There's guys that are like, I want to be surprised if people were really down on Marvin Harrison Jr. after this season, and then next year he's a baller. Like, that could easily happen. Not saying it will, but like, that's the type of thing that does happen season to season. And I think JSN had a lot of juice around his name when he came out, and then it just all faded. It's all gone now. And I bet that most folks that aren't Seahawks fans, I mean, you watch any Seahawks game, he's popping up like 10 to 15 times a game. He's just doing everything. He's short passes, first downs. He's getting there deep. And a lot of that does, I know you guys talked about DK, like Tyler Lockett has pretty much disappeared. Like, the 3 targets he gets, he's not even catching all those balls. Like, he's had some drops. So JSN is now what many hoped he would be as a rookie. And it makes sense, but we just have high expectations for guys as soon as they enter the league.
And that's why you watch the shows in the offseason, because there's a guy in this show that's been telling you to go buy him. And I did. And I'm happy now. And you get the wrong comparison, Zach. And a lot of people are going to bring up the Marvin Harrison because he's struggling so much. It's not Harrison who's going to be forgotten. It's Rome Odunze over Chicago. Because like I said, it's the same situation. JSN's not going to take over his rookie season. Lockett, who's a very all-pro, he's an all-pro player, or DK Metcalf. He was stuck there to the third wheel. Odunze is not taking over DJ Moore or Keenan Allen. You got a Hall of Famer in Keenan Allen and an all-pro in DJ Moore. It's not going to happen. So people are going to forget about Odunze. So when I'm telling you in 3 months to go buy Odunze, go buy him, because it's going to be the same situation. I asked everyone this that I talked to, and I not asked you this, Zach. Put all 3 players, put 4 players, Brian Thomas Jr., Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and JSN in a draft today, dynasty-wise. Who are you taking? Rank those 4 players.
Man, that's so unbelievably tough, because we don't know who's going to be throwing the football to Neighbors, right? Like, that's a big part of it, because he's looked good with crappy quarterbacks this year. I'm still such a believer in Marvin Harrison Jr., but like, Kyler Murray hates him. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Kyler Murray hates MHJ. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. When, even game 1, when they were like, why aren't you throwing the ball to him? And he's like, I don't call plays. Yeah, you're literally the play caller. You're the quarterback. I understand there's an offensive like coordinator, but like, come on, what are we doing? What are we doing? Come on, Kyler. Like, God. So I don't have faith that situation is going to change. So I'm trying to like separate the talent. I love Brian Thomas Jr. Obviously, they're going to roll with Trevor Lawrence. They're going to have some turnover there on the coaching staff. And I'm just a big fan of him. JSN, similarly, though, like, what's Geno have left in the tank, right? Like, you got to think, because when we talk about Geno, it's his first year there was kind of like, not maybe from a fantasy perspective, but what Sam Darnold's doing now, we're seeing a little bit from Baker. Like, Geno did it first a few years ago, right? Like, he said, they wrote me off. I didn't write back. That was in the playoffs. But every year that passes, like Gino's going to be closer to the guy that we should write off than the dude with the cool quote from that playoff run. So I think if I had to rank him right now, just moving forward, I mean, I like Brian Thomas Jr. there because I think, again, Trevor Lawrence is going to sling the ball. That offense, I think, can only get better with some help. I'd probably go, man, this is so tough.
It's so hard.
Like, I'd probably, honestly, based on what we've seen this year, I'd probably go Neighbors next, just because I think that the unknown actually plays in his favor versus, again, Kyler's going to be in Arizona next year and the next year and the next year. And he's all of a sudden going to start throwing the ball tomorrow. It's like McBride's still there. Connor, I think, just signed a new deal this past season before it started. Like, I just don't know when he's going to be an integral part of the offense. And then I like JSN a lot, but, DK is still there. And again, like, I just don't know what's happening with Gino and the future of that team. So I would actually probably go JSN third and then Marvin Harrison Jr. fourth. It's an impossible question, though.
It is. But the answer is JSN. All right, let's move on. We have time.
Fine.
Like, that's fine. Like, no, it is fine. But you know why? I'll tell you why. Real quick. This will be really super quick. You nailed it on the head. My biggest knock on Neighbors was Daniel Jones. And people said, well, he's going to get a bajillion targets. Well, he did for 3 weeks. Then he got hurt because they overused him. And then since coming back, he's been a above average receiver. But for fantasy, for what we got in those first 3 weeks, he's been wide receiver 20 since coming back. Like, that's good, but it's not excellent. It's not what we wanted. Marvin Harrison, that dude's so dead right now. It's impossible for him to get revived at this moment. Brian Thomas Jr., you still have Trevor Lawrence there. That's fine. It's Trevor Lawrence. I'll just say that. It's Trevor Lawrence. We're the only person that, Gino's not dead. Like, he's completely not dead. But either way, you're right. It's very difficult to pick these 4 players, and it's an unfair question. It really is. And plus, there's probably rookies coming out this year that I don't even know about yet because I don't watch college that are probably above them. Who knows? Is there anyone, Zach, you watch college? Is there any receiver that you'd probably rank above them? I know this is off topic.
I don't love the receiver class. I mean, obviously we look back a lot and guys are studs. Obviously Travis Hunter, it depends on how he's used. Yeah. As a pure receiver, though, I don't know if I'd go that far right now. I mean, his versatility obviously helps his stock quite a bit. There's a few other guys out there, but I don't think any that are as sexy as Harrison Jr. and Neighbors or Dunze this past draft. Again, Hunter's a unicorn in what he does. And then, I mean, we've already seen Brian Thomas Jr. ball out this year, so he has that in his back pocket. And if he wasn't behind Neighbors, who knows how we would have talked about him this past draft. He was playing on like another team that didn't have a stud first rounder. So I would say no for where we're at right now, but you guys know how it is. Like, there's going to be receivers in this draft that we underrate, and we won't know that for another 2 years, and they'll be studs.
Well, it also depends on what team drafts them.
100%.
That's a huge part because, I mean, a lot of people are expecting big things out of the Arizona guy, McMillan.
Yeah.
Luther Burden III. You got Emeka Egbuka. So, I mean, there's guys out there that should be good. It's just what team drafts them. Are they sliding into a wide receiver 3 slot like JSN did his rookie season? Or are they going to be a Malik Neighbors and be slided right into wide receiver 1 position? Or are they Brian Thomas Jr. and get put into wide receiver 2 for the first 5 games until they realize that, well, the injured guy who was wide receiver 1 is... Yeah,
I feel like he was wide receiver 3 to come out. I think Kirk was above him. I think who else did they have above
him?
Gabe Davis they traded for. Yeah. I don't know if they traded. I think he was a free agent.
Yeah, they were targeting him early on too. I was like, what is happening? Because the very first game they played Miami, and I remember specifically Brian Thomas caught a touchdown over Jalen Ramsey and talked trash to him, and I'm like, that's my dude. That's my dude. I mean, that's my team that he just beat, but that's my dude. He's talking trash to a legend, bro. Come on, he's got it. He's got it. Let's before we move on to the tight end because we got it. We're getting up against the clock. I have CeeDee Lamb ranked number 1 strictly because they're playing Tampa Bay. Now, any objections to that? No? Okay. Guys, do you have any objections?
I mean, CeeDee's been a top 10 guy this year still. I mean, here's the thing. Like, as much as people wanted him to be closer to the number 1 receiver all season long, and he's been closer to the number 10, number 5, whatever. Tomato. He hasn't been wide receiver 1 all year.
No, he hasn't.
He's playing his best football right now. Yeah. So I think that's he's going to win some people, some leagues that have, wanted more out of him. I think they're going to get that or already have been, honestly, these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's averaging 17.6 per game. That's fourth best in the league, right behind Justin Jefferson, Sun God, and of course, Mr. Jamar Chase, who Justin predicted will be outside the top 12. So I
It was a
guess
bold take in like May. Get over it.
you said it. It's on air. It's on tape.
I did.
It doesn't go
So
away.
Zach, everybody was saying, "Oh, this person will finish as RB1. This person will finish as QB1. This person will finish as tight end 1." None of those were right, by the way, but we don't talk about those. I said Jamar Chase won't even finish in the top 12 of the wide receiver position because he hasn't really done that. And well, I'm happily wrong as a Bengals fan. So.
My bold prediction was Garrett Wilson would set the touchdown record. I wonder how close he got. Pretty close.
Yeah.
I would say pretty close. I would say he's right there. Like maybe if he had 17 more games to do this, we're good to go.
I was about to say he would need an entire season and a half.
It happens. All right, let's talk one tight end. Let's get on out of here.
We already talked about the Ravens. So we already talked about them too. Which one do you want? Mark Andrews or Pat Freiermuth?
Zach, I'm gonna let you pick. Dealer's choice.
I think Mark Andrews is the more interesting one, right? Because this is the guy after the first week, everybody was like, should we be playing Isaiah Likely for the rest of the season? You fast forward 5 more weeks in and we're like, yeah, Mark Andrews is officially dead. Like we buried him. We threw dirt on him. Justin, I think you did the eulogy. Like it was a beautiful day out at the park. Spoiler alert, he's not dead. Like Mark Andrews he's alive somehow.
What happened? We did the eulogy in week 4, I think.
No, during our waiver show, Zach, which you probably don't know this, we bury a player every week.
Okay,
I just assumed
I can
Zach
feel
was a huge follower of our show and knew exactly what happened after week 4.
Like you nailed it.
I think there were funerals all across the
waivers,
country,
we
though.
buried this guy.
Yeah, you aren't alone, and that's why he's such an interesting person now. Because I wonder, and I'm sure you guys advise people, how many teams starting Mark Andrews this week were the teams that drafted him versus teams that dropped him, traded him, quit their league altogether and can't get access, but like whatever, like that. I don't know how many folks held on to Mark Andrews in a way where they're able to be somewhat rewarded now. I think something to keep in mind, though, much different than the other positions we talked about, is the tight end room is such a graveyard. Back to that analogy that like none of these guys are really that worthwhile to the point where you feel great about starting them outside of the top 3 or 4 with like Bowers and Kittle and some of those guys. But yeah, Mark Andrews, I mean, he's not dead. I mean, and again, he's top 10 this year somehow.
He's the tight end 6 right now, which makes me sick. He is Hunter Henry. And what I mean by that is Hunter Henry last year and every year that he's ever played, touchdown dependent. If he scores a touchdown, you're happy. If he doesn't, you're not happy. Every week, Mark Andrews has been relevant this year, top 10 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. That's it. There's no yardage. He doesn't get the yardage anymore. There's no games above. He's never had 100 total yards this year at all. I think he cracked over 54 times this year. He's just not going to get the volume or the targets like he used to. He's more of a red zone guy, which if you want to play roulette with your tight end, that's totally fine. It's not something I do. I'm going to go after the Hunter Henrys who are getting the targets, or of course, Bowers if I drafted him, but the touchdown dependent guys, including Mark Andrews, I'm staying away from, because when I flip a coin in real life, it always lands on the side that's not favoring me, always. So when I start, it is, Zach, it is. When it comes to luck, I have no luck.
It's all in your head, bro. It's all in your head.
People always say, no one ever talks about the good beats like in poker. We only talk about the bad beats because that's what you remember the most. Yeah. So it's probably true. And with Mark Andrews, I only remember the bad beats, which is weeks 1 through 4. It's true. And so I don't feel confident ever starting this guy, period, ever again. I'd rather start Jonnu Smith, who's been the tight end 1 and is probably available in your league right now. He's been the tight end 1 since week 7. It's ridiculous. Where do we have him ranked? I have him super high. Where do you have him ranked, Justin? I have him 3, you have him at 4. Yeah. But you would tell a casual or someone that, doesn't really play as much as we do, start Jonnu this week over Andrews. They're going to look at us weird. They're going to look at us sideways. Like, are you guys credible?
Well, they're going to look at you exactly how they look at you when you tell them you should be starting JSN in your wide receiver slot, not just your flex. But which I had to tell a lot of people yesterday that to start JSN like over all of the bums that they gave me. I was like, why are you not starting JSN? Yeah, it's filled with name recognition. Mark Andrews has been name recognition. It's the same way when we kept telling people not to start Travis Kelce for the longest time because he wasn't doing anything. I have him at 9 this week, which is a starting tight end position, yes, but I don't expect him to be top 8 because of the same reasons why I have Lamar so low. Mark Andrews is very touchdown dependent, and for Lamar Jackson to score more than 15 points, he has to throw touchdowns, which math is mathing right now, right? If Lamar isn't throwing the touchdowns, Mark Andrews can't catch the touchdowns, which means he's lower. He's not going to be 10 points or more. I personally, the tight end position sucks this period. I would not be starting Mark Andrews if I had literally almost any other option.
And it goes down to this, and this is the final point, is target share for tight ends. We've talked about this all season long, strictly on Sam Laporta, why we've been telling you to drop him from day one, because when you're getting less than 15% of the target share at any position, especially the tight end position, you're kind of useless. Mark Andrews is sitting at below 14% target share right now. So he's literally touchdown. Like there's no, he'll get you 4 catches. No, he's going to get you 2 catches for 1 touchdown, and you'll be happy with that. He leads the whole NFL in touchdowns for tight ends. He's number 1. He has 8. He's number 1. His touchdown rate, 17%. 17% of his catches go for touchdowns. That's an astronomical number. That's almost Raheem Mostert's rushing touchdowns. That was at Jamal Williams' year where he had all those rushing touchdowns. And guess what? Those didn't repeat ever again, and they probably won't. And if he scores a touchdown, I'm sorry. You beat me, Mark Andrews. Anyway, we're going to get on out of here. Don't laugh at me, Zach. Don't laugh at me. We're going to get on out of here. Zach, one more time, where can we find you?
Yeah, just easy to find me on my handle at Zach on the mic, ZAC on the mic, pretty much across the board. Yeah, pleasure to be with you guys. Good chatting, and certainly hope people can go out and win some money and win some leagues. And it's a fun time of year. It's stressful. Try to enjoy it though.
Yes, enjoy the football. Don't let it get to your head. Do not smash TVs. Do not smash glasses. Don't yell at your kids. Guys, it's just fantasy. I've been there, trust me. But it's been a fun time. Zach, thank you so much for coming on. Can't wait to see you tonight, by the way. It's going to be a great time. Justin, good luck to you in every league, all your 9 semifinals. Woo, 9 of them, except for 1, where I'm going to dominate you. So, guys, we'll be back next week. Good luck, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. Follow on X and Instagram at OUSFFPOD. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.